Welcome to the webinar. This is Dr. Herbert Harris, and this is the New You for the New Year webinar. I am a author, trainer, retired attorney, and the CEO of the Life Skill Institute. We've been doing personal development and leadership training for over 35 years. And I think that the thing I like best about what we do is that we are master transformational trainers. And that simply means that we help facilitate people discover who they really are and empower them to make that discovery a reality. I'm also a network marketing expert, and many of us who are in the network marketing arena have probably met me before and been in some of my webinars and a part of that $1 Million Earner Club. So let's get started. This is session number 5 of the New You for the New Year transformational webinar. Last week we had some interesting assignments on page 24 and page 4, exercise 24 on page 49 of your workbook, and exercise 25 on page 51 of your workbook. And just a couple of comments on page 51. It was an interesting exercise. And we were talking about challenges or situations that keep you from achieving your goals. And for those of you on the webinar, that's a key point. When we identify the things that block us and slow us down, we're halfway towards solving them. All right, moving along. Just a reminder, the back office is functional so that if you ever miss a class, you have access to all of the training webinars in one place so that you can study at will and really move along at your own pace. So tonight, solving the riddle of survival. This really falls under the 8th universal law of success, the universal law of value. And this can be stated, one of our spiritual principles: give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn again and attack you. So what does that mean? Really and truly, it's about the things that are valuable to you, that it really is important who you share these things with. So when we talk about the level of the law of value, who should you share your goodies with, then we're really talking about the things that are important to you. Give not that which is holy. These are things that are important to you unto people who will not appreciate them and who in many instances become very upset and literally attack you. The law of value and mutual exchange covers the interactions between different levels of consciousness. And what I mean there is, for example, we have a human consciousness. And so therefore, if we're interacting with a person at a lower level of consciousness that we are, we may have a great appreciation for education, for accomplishment, for sticking to a task until it is done. If we are interacting with a person who does not have an appreciation for education, who quits at the first bump in the road, then when we interact with these people, we're going to have we'll just say, we're going to be disappointed if we expect them to appreciate things on the same level that we do. So this law of value and mutual exchange deals with interactions between people of different levels of consciousness. Put simply, do not waste your treasures. And your treasures are the things that are important to you. Don't waste your treasures on thoughts. In other words, idle thinking, on people who do not appreciate you, on activities, things that waste your time, or possessions, trivial material possessions that really have no meaning. Don't waste your treasures, the things that are important to you, on thoughts, people, activities, or possessions that are not worthy. So what are your treasures? And basically your treasures fall into 4 categories. Your time, and time is critical because all of us have the same number of seconds in a minute, the same number of minutes in an hour, and the same number of hours in a day. And so our time is our most valuable asset because that is the great equalizer that puts every human being, every created creature on one accord, on a, you might say, on a level playing field. Your thoughts are your treasures. The first law of success says that you become what you think about most of the time. And so if you're wasting your thoughts on trivial pursuits, unproductive ideas and concepts, you're giving away your treasures. Your relationships are critical. When 2 or more are gathered on one accord, I am the making power, the ability to get things done. That power is there between you. And so the relationships that you form can either empower you and lift you up, or can disempower you and pull you down. And then finally, your possessions. Your possessions, and not necessarily material possessions, but your possessions should be your servants and not your masters. And so let's look at this law of value. The law of value has 4 main aspects: time, thoughts, actions, and substance. There's an interesting exercise that I'd love for you to think about. When we look at our time, our thoughts, our actions, and our substance, then are you wasting any of your treasures? Are you wasting your time on unproductive events and activities? Are you wasting your thoughts on things that do not bring you any benefit? Are you wasting your actions playing games and things that have no consequence? Are you wasting your substance? And if so, why? One of the beauties of this personal development journey that we are on is that we really know what our issues are. We simply have to acknowledge them, confront them, and then determine a way to handle them. So let's look at time. Don't waste time on thoughts, people, or actions that are not worthy. Now, the idea of worthiness, what is worthiness? Well, worthiness is determined by your goals, your purpose, the things that you would like to accomplish in life. And so if you waste your time on thoughts, in other words, thoughts that do not support your goals, thoughts that do not support your vision, then you're truly wasting time. If you waste your time on people, you know, so often we've seen great stories of some of the athletes who have achieved financial success, professional success, but still are committed to people from the old playground, the old playmates. And so when you waste time on people that are not worthy, people that are not going where you're going, people that are not a benefit for you. Now, that is not to mean don't be compassionate. It just means to recognize compassion as compassion. But when you look at your goals, your vision, and your purpose, people who don't fit in, be careful with giving them your time. Your actions. Don't waste time on actions that are not worthy. One of the things that really, I guess, concerns me about so many young people is how much time they spend playing video games, activities that have no consequence, no value. Don't waste your thoughts on ideas that are not worthy. The first law of success says a mind, male or female, shall have whatsoever it thinks, the rational part of the thought, in its heart, the feeling part of the thought. And so don't waste time don't waste your thoughts on ideas that are not worthy. Each thought has a vibration, has an energy level. Each thought is like a seed. And so if we are planting our thought, if we are planting seeds of no consequence, if we are engaging in thoughts that do not support our goals, if we're engaging in thoughts that do not support our vision and the things that we want to be, do, and have, then these thoughts are not worthy and we should not do them. Don't waste your energy on activities that are not worthy. We live in a great energy field, and there's a level of balance that we must achieve in that energy field. That balance is within, that we get the proper amount of rest for our mind and bodies to regenerate, and that energy is without, that we interact with the world on a certain vibrational level. And so when we waste our energies on activity, so when we engage in games, unproductive activities, sometimes we can even fool ourselves when we are confronted with a serious task, with something that we really have to overcome to stay on our path and accomplish our goals. When we waste our energy, when we procrastinate, so we spend our energy getting our desk in order, getting our files lined up. Many of us they're in businesses where you have to close out the month, where at the end of the month you have certain goals to achieve. Well, there are people who, rather than putting the pedal to the metal, they'll give an excuse, well, I'll just start next month, and spend their energy cleaning up their office, organizing their files, things that are not worthy in terms of their goals, their vision, and their purpose. Don't waste your money on that which is not worthy. Now, I'll tell you, this is a serious challenge, because money is a quantitative value of our efforts. Now, what do I mean? Money is often a measure of our level of success. Money is often a measure of our level of happiness. Does money bring you happiness? No. But the lack of money will generally create problems. Most relationships, somehow, there's a challenge. If you go drill down, in many, many instances, the root cause is lack of money. So don't waste your money on that which is not worthy. You see, money is a powerful servant. When you're on your success path, there will be times you'll need money to buy ads, to buy equipment. And so money then becomes your employee that does your bidding, that does the work that you have to do. Don't let money be your master, though. Because when money runs you, it's a bad situation. Money is an awesome servant, but a terrible master. So don't waste your money on that which is not worthy in terms of your goals, your vision, and your purpose. When we did our goal exercise, we were talking about buying a house in 2 years, and you had to save a certain amount of money each month. If you did not save that certain amount of money each month, then a year down the road, 2 years down the road, you would not be able to buy that house. So don't waste your money on things that are not worthy. Dr. Johnny Coleman said something very powerful. She said, money is the getting potential of your self-image. A translation, when you carry yourself in a certain way, money is almost irrelevant. That how you see yourself is so powerful that you can literally do things by your presence, by your posture, by your aura that money can't buy. There's some people that can walk into an event and it seems that everybody is rushing to help them, to get them a proper seat, to seat them up front. And there are others that have to spend $1,000 for a ticket to get the same treatment. So money is the getting potential of your self-image. So basically, the law of value says, invest your time, your thoughts, your energy, your money, and your assets wisely and effectively. All right, let's just take a little breather here for a moment. Okay, very, very good. Oh, we have a great group here. Full house. Excellent, excellent. So let's just take a deep breath. Let it out slowly. Take a deep breath. And let it out slowly. All right. The ultimate life question, those of us who are on the success journey, this question we must answer. And it says this: what is the best use of my time, my thoughts, my energy, and my money right now when I consider my goals, my vision, and my purpose? This is a powerful question because we are where we are because of the choices we make and the actions we take. The most important choice that we make is how we spend our time, how we use our thoughts, how we allocate our energy and our money. And so from moment to moment, as we move through our lives and we are confronted with choices, and we always are, we should make choices that manifest the best use of our time, our thoughts, our energy, and our money from moment to moment. The survival question now. You know, once you choose the success path, there is a spiritual aspect of it, that of perfection, that of being and doing and having all the things that you desire, the great visions that you have, the purpose that you write down, the things that you want to do, you know, the important things. But then there's another question that must be answered, and it is the survival question. How much time, thought, energy, and money does it take to meet the true needs of you and your family? I'll put that in the personal. How much time, thought, energy, and money does it take to meet my true needs the needs of me and my family. Now, this survival question is critical because it's very easy to get on the success journey and not take care of the survival issue. And believe me, your journey will be short-lived. Because there's something about survival. It's food, clothing, shelter, health care are things that you cannot put off. They are daily occurrences that you have to find a way to master and to handle them. And so our topic, the theme for this session is solving the riddle of survival. To solve the riddle of survival means that you have achieved a level of financial independence in which the fruits of your labors are sufficient for you and your family to live indefinitely at a level that is pleasing to you with minimal further effort required. You know, many years ago when I retired from my law practice, I retired because I sold my business. I had a network marketing business. We were in the water filter industry. And there came a time that it was advantageous to sell the business. And it brought a comfortable amount of money. And with that amount of money, I decided to invest it in myself. Because I knew that with that amount of money, I would be able to survive at a certain level that was comfortable, not outrageous, not extravagant, and be free to do the things that I really wanted to do, the creative things, the community things, the family things. And so for each of us on this session tonight, it's important to look at your life and say, well, what do I need to be free? What do I need to solve the riddle of survival? What do I need to do to create enough money, enough resources for me and my family to live a life of choice rather than circumstance, to live a life of can do rather than make do, to live a life of dreams and vision. To solve the riddle of survival, we have to understand the principles of wealth building. There are 4 principles in wealth building: the earning principle, the spending principle, the saving principle, and the investing principle. You know, those who achieve outrageous success, monetarily especially, have figured this out. And so let's look at each one of these principles and see how they all work together. The earning principle covers the exchange of value, of time, of thought, of energy, of money required to create income, to create benefits. And so the goal of the earning principle is to maximize your income for the value given or exchanged. And so when you're on a job, for example, you would like to work at the level that generates the greatest amount of benefit from you. It may not always be monetary. It may be on a job, the benefit may be in relationships, networks, people that you can meet. The benefit may be in experience, so that you can gain experience in this particular area, so that a year from today, 2 years from today, you can create a lot more money. You can maximize the exchange of value because you've created more value for yourself. One of the interesting things about personal development is you will not be more successful than your level of personal development supports. And that simply means that the earning principle, that the way that you make more money is to give more value. And you give more value by improving your level of experience, your level of knowledge, wisdom, by leveraging your time, your thoughts, your energy. So the earning principle, the goal is to maximize the income for value given and exchanged. The spending principle. This is one that really requires discipline. Well, you know, they both do. I was talking with a young lady, and I was counseling her, and she was quitting her 4th job for the year. And I said, well, why did you quit? She said, oh, these people get on my nerves. You know, they're real messy in that business, etc. And so she had terminated her earning capacity based on some emotional feelings that she had about the people there. And so it takes discipline often to stay on a job that you may not like. It takes discipline to perform tasks in a business that you may not like. In order to generate money, you may have to make that sales call. So it requires discipline to make yourself do it. The spending principle really requires discipline. The spending principle covers the manner in which you spend, circulate, or otherwise dispose of your income and benefits. Now, the term spend, I don't like. And the reason is when you spend something, the connotation is that it is gone forever. In the wealth building consciousness, everything that you do should be looked at as a seed from which something grows. And so rather than spending money, think of investing money, circulating money. The idea is that when you look at investing money, there's an expectation of return. And so when you go out to buy a car, for example, instead of buying a brand new shiny car, you may buy a used one and save 20 or 30% of the cost. It has a few miles on it and is in great shape. In other words, you are able to control that discipline and say, I want a car that functions and looks well. I don't need to have a brand new one, because once I buy it, people don't know whether I had it all along or I just bought it. And so the spending principle is really about minimizing the spending in accord with your financial goals. So that as you circulate your money, you circulate it with the idea that everything that you do is in pursuit of and in support of your goals, your vision, and your purpose. One of my good friends and students many years ago was Russell Hemphill. Russell was, we might say, one of the old-time salespeople. He worked with the Fuller Brush people, and they used to have their sales meetings at 7:30 in the morning, and there'd be 200 or 300 of them in the meeting place, and they'd be motivating and doing affirmations. And they operated in an era of 100% commission. If you didn't sell nothing, you didn't get anything. We didn't have, in those days, you didn't have a draw. You had to hunt to eat. Let's put it like that. And Russell said this. He said, when your outflow, in other words, when you're spending more, when your outflow exceeds your income, so when you're living beyond your means and you're spending more money than you're taking in, he says, when your outflow exceeds your income, your upkeep, in other words, maintaining the standard of living that you are maintaining, becomes your downfall. When your outflow exceeds your income, your upkeep becomes your downfall. Thank you so much, Russell Hemphill. The third wealth building principle is the savings principle. Now, The saving principle covers the manner in which you accumulate surplus. And surplus is the difference between your income and your expenses. And so if you're living life right up to what you're making, you know, a large percentage of the people never ever save anything. I was amazed. They were doing some net worths of people, and a major percentage of people in this country have almost a zero net worth. In other words, they've saved nothing. They've invested nothing. If you don't save, you can't invest. And so the saving principle covers the manner in which you accumulate surplus, the difference between your income and your expenses. The saving principle truly requires discipline. The goal is to maximize accumulation by purposeful, systematic, disciplined spending. Now, I'll tell you something. A young man once said, he said, Dr. Harris, he said, I hear what you're saying, and I tell you, when I start making enough money, I'm going to start saving some money. And I said, young man, you have to start saving where you are. The saving principle is an interesting principle. That, you know, there's a thought that says when you're dutiful about small things, you'll be dutiful about big things. And so the savings principle is most important when you have very little money, because it requires that discipline to say, look, I'm taking 10% of whatever I'm generating and I'm setting it aside off the top. Because if you don't do that, the whole consumption cycle will eat up everything you earn and you will never achieve wealth. The fourth principle is the investing principle. And this covers the allocation of surplus above expenses. So think about this. If you maximize your income and you spend every dime you make, then you will have no savings. And with no savings, you'll have no investment. Very often, a large portion of our net worth is in our property, in our homes. If we don't save money, you'll never be able to buy a home. When you buy a home, it requires a down payment. How do you accumulate a down payment? You know, as a father, I know I went through that thing of loaning one of my children the money for the down payment. And then I found myself loaning the money for the mortgage payment. And then I found myself loaning the money to stop the foreclosure. And then finally, I just stopped. And so the investing principle is key, but it comes about simply because you earn as much as you can, you spend with discipline, you save as much as possible to then have something to invest. See, the goal of the investing principle is to preserve and grow the surplus that you accumulate for maximum return. And so if you have no surplus, you'll never invest. Even when people are left money, you know, so often when I practiced law, it was amazing to me that when people would make their transition and leave money to their kids and their relatives and family, and they would take the money and go out and buy something that lost value. I remember one young man went out and bought a brand new BMW. So the moment he drove off the lot, he lost about 10% of the money. And it was downhill from there. One of the things that we must teach our children, for example, and there are certain cultures that really look at an inheritance as not your money. That inheritance is the fruits of the efforts of those who went before you. And your goal is to preserve it, protect it, and grow it. So to wrap up wealth building made simple. Wealth building 101 says this: maximize your income less than you earn, save what you do not spend, invest a portion of what you save to help you generate more. All right, this is a good place for a break. Let's sit up for a minute. Let's take a deep breath. Let it out slowly. Take a deep breath. Let it out slowly. All right, let us continue. Your budget is the key to solving the riddle of survival. You know, for many years, I operated without a budget, and probably many of you operate without a budget. But if you think about this, whenever you go to borrow money from the bank, especially in the business arena, they ask, what is your budget? When you go to borrow money, even as a personal, they want you to do basically a financial statement to see if you have enough money to purchase whatever it is that you want. And the key to solving the riddle of survival is the budget. I sent, along with the link for the webinar, we sent a budget form. I want us to take a look at this. This budget form. Now, there are many others, and I want to thank Carolyn for getting it for us. She actually got it for an online program, and it's actually an Excel table, and you can fill in and do it. But I'm still of the old school. I still like to see us use it, write it down, and say. So, as an example, this budget form shows you a lot your income. So think about this. I like to actually do my expenses first. But when you calculate your income, it's important to know what you have coming in. If you have a job, a salary, any interest income from your investments, any stock dividends, any business income if you own a business, any pension income. And the idea is to quantify, to be able to know exactly how much you have coming in. You know, there's so many of us that we have more months at the end of the money. In other words, we don't have a budget and we spend until we run out. And what generally happens is we have 25 days of money and 30 days of month. So we say, you have money left. You have month left at the end of the money. And so to get a good picture of what you earn, your income, those of us who are speakers and who travel, and in other words, to really identify your income. Sometimes it shocks you when you really quantify your income, because you say, man, I thought I made more than that. Look at your savings. If you don't have a savings fund yet, then think about this. As a rule of thumb, you should have a saving stash equal to about 3 months of your expenses, and preferably 6 months. And so if you don't have that, so many times people are one circumstance away from poverty. Sometimes an illness will come that can suck up the money. And when people live marginal lives, this budget will show it to you. You see, if you don't have a budget, you don't know that you're broke until you're actually broke. When you have a budget, you can see what's going on and you have time to fix it. It always amazed me how closely people live to the best. I was working on a case in New York, and a gentleman was vice president of a major corporation, and this corporation was doing some things that really were not proper. And I said to him, I said, how can you sit here and let these things go on? He said, Attorney Harris, he said, listen, I have 2 kids in college. I have a house, I have a mortgage, I have a student loan from years ago. He says, I can't afford to miss one paycheck. That was frightening. Look at your expenses. I mean, let me tell you something, folks. Expenses are heavy. We're going to go into that a little bit more. But this budget sheet is really your blueprint for success. So print it out. It should have come with your email. Make copies and start to work on it. Look at your income, look at your expenses, and leave some other things that you may want to fill in. Just looking at the income sheet, look at some of the things: transportation, car payments, auto insurance, fuel, bus transportation, daily living, groceries, child care, entertainment, health. When you can put down a dollar figure on each one of those things, I guarantee you it will shock you. So let's look at the truth about budgeting. It's not how much you earn, it's how much you keep that really matters. We see many times entertainers, especially in sports and music, who are making tons of money, millions. And then 4 or 5 years later, you find them broke in bankruptcy. Someone did a study, and I think with professional athletes in the football arena, I think within 7 years, a major percentage of the guys who had made millions were literally broke. And why? They didn't have a budget. Your budget is the foundation and the blueprint for your success. Once you do this budget, you're now building your dream on solid ground. So exercise, to take the budget form that we have and we sent you, and make copies of it. Prepare your budget on the forms provided. Income, of course, your salary, your bonuses, your business income, your pension, any investment. Look at how much you need for emergencies with your savings. Look at any systematic investments. I think one of the things that really made a difference in my life, when I was young, one of my friends started selling mutual funds. And they had a nice thought, and they said, if you invested $100 a month, that in 40 years you'd be a millionaire. Well, I believed them, and I did it. I invested. And let me tell you, that investment is a major part of my passive income to this day. So systematic investment, mutual funds. Consider your expenses. Be very detailed and look for hidden expenses. You know, last year, tax time came for real estate. And I had a number of associates who were really scrambling to pay their real estate taxes. And it was why? Because they didn't have a budget. See, when you have a budget, you look for those hidden expenses, especially those monthlies, those quarterly, those annual expenses, and then you amortize them. Literally, you set aside each month or each week, whatever your pay cycle is, whatever your income cycle, so that you build all of that in to your financial picture. Those hidden expenses will whip you. I recommend that you, when I was doing this budget exercise myself, I decided to take all of my bank accounts, especially credit card accounts, and go through every expenditure. I found at least 4 occasions where I was paying for a monthly, I was paying for, I think, one of the autoresponders, and had been paying for it for 3 years and had never used it. You know, you sign up for one of those things that, you know, you get a free trial and you put in your credit card information. Well, they've been charging me, I think, about $30 a month for 3 years. So look for these hidden expenses, quarterly insurances. Yeah, when you amortize them on a weekly or monthly, whatever your pay cycle, your income cycle is, then when the event occurs, when the expenditure occurs, you have the money. That's why this budget is so important. So let's take a little break now. We're heading in. Work with your budget. That's a critical exercise. So now with a budget now, you can then create wealth. And there are basically 3 ways to create wealth. Wages and salary, a job. I like to use the term a job. And a job is not a bad thing. You can create wealth, but you have to create it over time. The second, income from a business. That is probably the best way to create wealth. And then third, income from investments. The challenge there is you must have the investments first. So if someone left you some money and you properly handled it, great. So let's look at this wages and salaries. You can create wealth over time. There's a lady, a Miss McCarty, I think in Texas, and she was a lady that gave $150 to endow a scholarship fund for girls coming to a college in Texas. Everybody was amazed because she never made over $1,000 a month. She was literally a cleaning lady making a couple $100 a week. But yet, over 45 years, she was able to create enough money, enough wealth to give $150,000 away to a scholarship program. So it can work, but you have to be very disciplined and very systematic about saving. One of the drawbacks about wages and salaries is that you're working on somebody else's dream, and therefore you're only going to be paid what your employer thinks that you're worth. We often say that the employer is only going to pay you just enough to keep you from quitting. The other side of that equation, though, is that you're going to only work hard enough to keep from being fired. So on a job, very often, the employer gets just what he needs based on what he pays, and the employee gets just barely what he needs based on what his expenses are. Neither one of them really grow. The other thing about wages and salaries is that there's no security. There are 2 words standing between you and financial ruin. They are, you're fired. In today's culture, there was a time when people could work on a job for 30 years and expect a pension and a gold watch. That is no longer the case. It's very interesting. These companies did not want to have what you might say a company-funded pension. And so they sell people on, you know, self-determination. You determine how you're going to invest. Most people don't have the discipline to do it. And so wages and salaries can create wealth, but it's a very tenuous situation. especially today, and especially as you get older. Income from a business is really the best way to create wealth. Number one, you can determine your financial results. You determine how much you want to make. You're working on your own dream. And you get paid what you're worth. One of my friends, we were laughing. He'd say, oh my goodness. He said, I don't want to do that. I don't want to get paid what I'm worth. I ain't worth nothing. Okay. So one of the things about a business, one of the reasons that your level of personal development is so critical is because you are paid what you're worth. And so if you have a poor self-image and a poor self-esteem, on the job, you may get by. Because as long as you can deliver that minimal amount of work to keep from being fired, you'll be okay. But in a business, your level of personal development is critical because you're going to be paid what you're worth. And if you don't feel that you're worthy of X amount of dollars, X amount of success, it will not come to you. When you're working in a business, security is in your hands. You're not going to fire yourself, and you know what you have to do to keep it going. There are lots of tax benefits. If we look at our tax code in this country, it was based on and benefit people who are in business for themselves. And one of the beauties is that you can sell it or will it. I mean, I was able to retire from my law practice because I could sell my business. And that gave me what I like to call the getaway money. So the business is an incredible way to create wealth. And if you're not in business for yourself now, it's something to think about. Income from investments really is a great thing, but you have to accumulate the investments first. And you have to have sufficient investments to maintain your lifestyle. So think about this today, where we're looking at 2% return, and that's on savings accounts. Then $1 million invested on a 2% return gives you $20,000 a year in income. And so let's just say if you lived on a lifestyle where you needed $60,000 a year as your sustainable income, that is what you need to generate to keep yourself happy and your family at the level you feel comfortable. Well, to generate $60,000 at 2% return will take $3 million. And so investments are good, but you have to accumulate them first. You can sell them, you can will them, and you can otherwise dispose of them. So businesses and investments are really where you want to go to create independence for yourself. There's something called the rule of 72. And this is a powerful concept. And for those of us who are really striking on that path of personal independence, the rule of 72 gives you a way to determine the number of years an investment will double at a particular interest rate. And it's really the number of cycles. So when you divide 72 by the annual interest rate, then you can determine how many years it will take for your initial investment to double. For example, if you have $10,000 invested at 6%, then 6 into 72, it will take 12 years for that money to double. And so based on that, let's just say you're 20 years old and you have $10,000 invested at 6%. Well, by the time you're 30, by the time you're 32 in 12 years, you'll now have $20,000. By the time you're 44, another 12 years, you'll have $40,000. By the time you're 56, another 12 years, you'll have $80,000. And by the time you're at 66, 68, you have nearly $100,000 from that simple 10% investment. Those of us who are in business, when you want to project your business growth, this works in cycles. For example, if you're in a marketing business, for example, and you say, I am growing my organization by 6% per month, then in 12 months, your organization will double in size. And so let's just say, for example, if you're in you have an organization that's doing $100,000 a month. When I was in NSA in the water filter business, $100,000 a month would make you a national marketing director, for example. And so if you grew at the rate of 6% per month, then in a year, you would be earning $200,000. Right? In 2 years, it would go to $400,000. So that's rule of 72 works whatever the cycle is, whatever the cycle may be. It doesn't have to be years, it can be months. Compound interest is a key point, that the wealthy use compound interest to create money and wealth. There's a nice example. Someone asked, would you rather have $1 million or a penny doubled every day for a month? Take the penny doubled every day for a month. A penny doubled every day, 1 cent, 2 cents, 4 cents, 8 cents, 6, in 30 days would be nearly $5 million. So just looking at compound interest, if you had a 10%, if you had accumulated money based on a 10% return, then $100 a month invested over 10 years, you'd have 23,000, 20 years, 98,000. So 30 years, $100 a month invested at a 10% return. In 30 years, you'll have over $300,000. So that is how you can use a job to create wealth. If you're a little older, then you may not have 30 years. So you look, I better do this in 10 years. And so if I want to create $300,000, I need to up my game and start setting aside about well, to do it in 10 years, I'd have to set aside, I need to be setting aside at least $600 a month. The idea, though, is to pay yourself first. If you take 10% of your annual income and invest it in monthly installments, so let's say you're making $36,000 a year, 10% would be $3,600 per year invested. Divide that by 12 months, that's $300 a month invested. And so if you invested $300 a month, in 10 years, you'd have $69,000. By 30 years, you'd have $1 million. And so if you want to be a millionaire, determine how much money you need to invest each month, give yourself the amount of time it takes and get it done. What happens if you do not solve the riddle of survival? Well, number one, you live paycheck to paycheck. We often say you have more month at the end of the money. That you will be dependent on someone or something for assistance. A 40-year study showed that most people over 40 years, I think 36% were dead over that 40-year period from the age 20 to age 60. 54% were broke. So 90% of the people generally never achieve any type of financial independence. 5% were still working and doing pretty good. 4% were wealthy, and 1% was rich. So if you don't solve that riddle of survival, you'll be dependent on someone or something for assistance. You'll have stress over money matters. You'll live a life of make do and never enough. And you'll have to scale your dreams down to what you can afford. If we don't have a budget, if we don't solve the riddle of survival, this is what we're buying into. So what steps do we take to solve this riddle of survival? Because this is the foundation on which we can build the rest of our lives. Number one, prepare your budget. Take the time, get it done. Number two, commit to follow your budget absolutely. I've seen people prepare budgets and then ignore them. Number 3, analyze your goals in terms of your budget so that you can know exactly what type of money is required to facilitate your goals. Number 4, determine the changes that must be made to reconcile your budget with your goals. If your budget does not support your goals, then they're just pipe dreams. And then finally, 5th, to make the required changes into goals. And by that I mean this. If you determine that you need to accumulate $10,000, let's just say, over the next year, then that means that you'll need to be setting aside, I think about $800 or $900 a month. And so then you have to make those changes into goals. So it's, well, if my goal is to have $10,000 at the end of this year, then now my goal has to be how to create $900 a month that I can set aside. And so when you make these things your goals, you now have a track to run on. From moment to moment, ask yourself the life management question, which is, what is the best use of my time, my thoughts, my energy, and my money right now when I consider my goals, my vision, and my purpose? Ask yourself that question and act accordingly. When we can do that, nothing is impossible. All right, that basically completes our session 5. And next week, session 6, we deal with time management. Once we get that budget going and understand the finances, then the next step is to manage our time, because time is that unique gift that we have, the equalizer, the playing field that's level, that we can choose to fly or walk. So time management will be the class next week, class 6. And we're going to work it, because once your budget is together and you manage your time, then nothing is impossible. Also, just to remind you, we had our second mastermind session last night, and we added a mastermind session after class 8. So we'll have our second mastermind session after next week's class, after session 6, after we do time management. So our assignment for next week, now these are the 2 biggies, folks, to complete the draw your goal, the draw your dream exercise. We did that. We shared some of that last week in the last mastermind group. We did a nice presentation, and a couple of the affiliates who had done it before shared theirs. So complete the draw your dream exercise. Number 2, complete your budget. These are the 2 key elements of success. And then complete exercises 28 and 29 on page 55 of your success workbook. But most of all, draw your dreams, complete your budget. Of course, go to our closed Facebook page. Our closed Facebook page is New You for the New Year. And write some commentaries about this class tonight. Any new insights that you had, any thing that really was helpful about the class, and how you are implementing the information that you've learned in this class. Well, folks, this is Dr. Herbert Harris. This is the conclusion of session number 5, Solving the Riddle of Survival, as a part of the New You for the New Year transformational webinar. Thank you so much for sharing, for being a part of this. And remember this, the best is yet to come.